Section 19 of John Inglesant, A Romance. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. John Inglesant, A Romance by Joseph Henry Shorthouse. Chapter 13, Part 1. When the news of the arrest of the Earl of Glamorgan reached Oxford, it caused the greatest consternation, and the King wrote letters in his own name, and in that of the Chancellor, to the Parliament, and to all the principal politicians, denying all participation in, or knowledge of his negotiations. The most violent excitement prevailed on the subject all over England. All parties, except the Papists, joined in expressing the most lively horror and indignation at proposals which not only repudiated the policy of the last 100 years, and let loose the Papists to pursue their course unimpeded, but also placed England at the mercy of the most repulsive and lawless of the followers of the Roman Catholic faith. The barbarities of the Irish rebels, which were sufficiently horrible, were magnified by rumour on every side, and the horror which the English conceived at the thought of their homes being laid open to those monsters was only equalled by their indignation against those who had conceived so treasonable and unnatural a plot. Besides this, the King, having denied all knowledge of such negotiations, the indignation of all loyal churchmen was excited against those who had so treasonably and miserably done all they could to compromise the King's name, and make him odious to all right-thinking Englishmen. The known actors in this affair being very few, consisting indeed only of the Earl and Inglesant, and of the Jesuits, which last was a vague and intangible designation, standing in the ordinary English mind merely as a synonym for all that was wicked, base, and dangerous, and the Earl being, moreover, out of reach, the public indignation concentrated on Inglesant, and his life would have been worth little had he fallen into the hands of the mob. When the news of the fall of Chester and of Inglesant's arrest and subsequent transference to the parliamentary commander reached Oxford, the King sent for the Jesuit privately, and received him in his cabinet at Christchurch. The King appeared anxious and ill, and as though he did not know where to turn or what to do. "You have heard the news, father, I suppose," he said. "Lord Byron, as well as Digby, has taken upon himself to keep the King's conscience, and know the King's mind better than he does himself. How many kings there are in England now I do not know, but I have ever found my most faithful servants, my most strict masters. You know Jack Inglesant has been given over to the rebels. What are we to do for him?" "Your Majesty can do nothing," said the Jesuit. "All that could be done has been done, and as far as may be has been done well. All that your Majesty has to do now is to be silent." "Then Inglesant must be given up," said the King. "He must be given up. Your Majesty has no choice." "Another," said the King bitterly. "Strafford, whose blood tinges every sight I see. Lord Glamorgan, now another. What right have I to suppose my servants will be faithful to me, when I give them up one by one without a word?" "Your Majesty does not discriminate," said the Jesuit. "Your good heart overpowers your clearer reason. It is as much your duty for the good of the state to be deaf to the voice of private feeling and friendship, as it is for your servants to be deaf to all but the call of duty to your Majesty, and this your servants know, and do not dream that they have any cause to complain. Strafford and the Archbishop both acknowledge this, and now it will be the same again. There is no fear of John Inglesant, your Majesty." "No," said the King, rising and pacing the closet with unequal steps. "There is no fear of John Inglesant, I believe you. There is no fear that any man will betray his friends, and be false to his order and his plighted word, except the King, except the King." Apparently the Jesuit did not think it worth while to answer this outbreak, for he said after a pause, "Your Majesty has written to Glamorgan?" "Yes, I have told him to keep quiet," said the King, sitting down again. "He is in no danger. I am clear of him. But do you mean to say, father, that Inglesant must be left to the gallows without a word?" "No, I do not say that, your Majesty," said the other. "The rebels will do nothing in a hurry, you may depend. They will do all they can to get something from him which may be useful against your Majesty, and it will be months before they have done with him. I have good friends among them, and shall know all that happens. When they are tired of him, and the thing is blown over a little, I shall do what I can." "And you are sure of him?" said the King. "Any evidence signed by him would be fatal indeed." "Your Majesty may be quite easy," said the other. "I am sure of him. "They will threaten him with the gallows," said the king. "Life is sweet to most men." "I suppose it is," said the Jesuit, as if it were an assertion he had heard several times lately and began to think he must believe. "I have no experience in such matters, but however sweet it may be, its sweetness will not induce John Inglesant to utter a syllable against the cause in which he is engaged." "You are very confident in your pupil," said the king. "I hope you will not be deceived." The Jesuit smiled, but did not seem to think it necessary to make any further protestations, and soon after left the closet. Inglesant remained some time in confinement at St. James's before he was summoned before the Parliamentary Committee, but at the beginning of March another of those extraordinary events occurred which seemed arranged by some providential hand to fight against the king. A packet boat put into Padstow, in Cornwall, supposing it to be a royal garrison. On discovering their mistake, and some slight resistance having been overpowered, the captain threw a packet of letters and some loose papers overboard. The papers were lost, but the packet fished out of the sea, and proved to contain the most important of the correspondence from Lord Digby, describing the discovery of the plot, the articles of agreement with the papists, the copy of the warrant from the king to the Earl of Glamorgan, and several letters from the Earl himself, all asserting his innocence of any actions but those directed and approved by the king. These letters were published in extenso by the Parliament in a pamphlet which appeared on the 17th of March. The information contained in these papers was of the greatest use to the Parliament, for, though there was nothing in them absolutely to inculpate the king, indeed the letters of Lord Digby, as far as they went, were strong proofs to the contrary, yet it placed it in their power to make assertions and inquiries based upon fact, and it brought forward Lord Glamorgan as an evidence on their side. If they could now have produced a confession signed by Inglesant to the same effect, the case would have been almost complete. At any rate, few would have hesitated to call the moral proof certain. A committee of the Commons was appointed to examine Inglesant, and he was summoned to appear before them. On the day appointed, he was brought from St. James's across the park in a sedan guarded by soldiers, and, not being recognized, escaped without any notice from the passers-by. The committee sat in one of the rooms of the Parliament House, and began by asking Inglesant his name. "I understand," said one of the members savagely, "that your name is Inglesant, of a family of courtiers and sycophants, who for generations have earned their wretched food by doing any kind of dirty work the court set them, and that they never failed to do it so as to earn a reputation even among the mean reptiles of the court precincts. This is true, is it not? And you have held some of those posts which an honest man would scorn." Inglesant had recovered his health during his imprisonment, thanks to rest and sufficient food, and his manner was quiet and confident. To the attack of the parliamentarian he answered simply, "My name is Inglesant. I have been esquire of the body to the king." The chairman checked the warmth of the Puritan and began to question Inglesant concerning the plot, endeavouring to throw him off his guard by mentioning facts which had come to their knowledge through the recent discoveries. But Inglesant was prepared with his story. Though he was surprised at the amount of knowledge the committee possessed, yet he stood to his assertion that he knew nothing of any instructions except those which he had himself received, and that the whole plot originated with the Jesuits, as far as he knew, and had every reason to believe. When he was asked how he, a Protestant and a churchman, could lend himself to such a plot, he replied that he was very much inclined to the Romish Church, and that he thought the king's affairs so desperate that the plan of obtaining help from the Irish rebels appeared to him and to Father St. Clair as almost the only resource left to them. The committee, finding gentle means fail, adopted a sterner tone, telling him he was guilty of high treason without benefit, and that he might certainly, on his own confession, be condemned to the gallows without further trial. They then offered him a statement to sign, which, they said, they had sure information contained nothing but the truth. Inglesant looked at it, and saw that in truth it did contain a very fair statement of what had really taken place. He replied that it was impossible for him to sign anything so opposite to what he had himself confessed, and that, even if he did, no one would believe so monstrous a statement, and one so contrary to the known opinions and professions of the king. The committee then asked him why, if the king's commission was forged, it was kept back, and where it was. Inglesant said that the Lord Byron had it, having forcibly taken it from him, and refused to return it, telling him plainly that he should keep it as evidence against him. He observed that this impressed the committee, and he was soon after dismissed. He returned to St. James's the same way that he came, but found a strong guard summoned to attend him, for, the news of his examination having got wind, the crowd assembled at the Parliament House and accompanied him with hootings and insults of every kind across the park. End of section 19.